Hi everyone, so I know I'm looking a little bit casual today. I'm in my PJs and my makeup is looking not super fresh because it's pretty late and tomorrow we are embarking on a 11-hour road trip. So I just want to film this really quickly and get this up for you because I've been planning on filming this for a while, but it just hasn't happened because I've been putting it off. These are the Coloured Raine Vivid Pigments, and they were released 3 months ago. I did eye swatches of all of these shades. Crazy, I know. And now I realize why there are very few videos where people actually do eye swatches, because they're a pain in the ass. And my eyelids did not appreciate me doing this. So this is probably going to be the last eye swatch video I'll ever do. But I did learn a lot from doing that. I have mixed feelings of these, and I am going to tell you why. I know a lot of people have been saying that these are the best, most pigmented, colorful eyeshadows they've ever used in their life. And then I've seen some reviews where they weren't so favorable. But I would say for the majority of things that I've seen, people seem to love these. Let me get into my thoughts on this. Okay, I wrote a whole list of things about things I wanted to talk about because there's a lot to talk about, and I have actually been testing these out since I've got them in about August. So I have had a chance to play around with these quite a bit. Let's talk about the price. This is no longer available as a whole bundle with a magnetic palette. I bought this when it was a bundle, and then you had to buy the palette itself. If I had been a little bit more patient, and I have kind of learned over time that patience often does pay off, you could actually get this all together, I believe, for $50 US with the palette. They just threw it in as a special deal. But unfortunately, when I bought it, it was separate. So I bought this for $45 US for the bundle, and then $11.99 US for the magnetic palette. However, they do actually sell this as an actual palette for $50 USD and singles for $6.99. And I am actually kind of glad that I got this as a bundle of singles rather than an actual palette, because I feel like I would get more use out of them as singles and pop them out, because as an actual complete palette, I don't really gravitate towards rainbow palettes. I like a collection of rainbow singles, but actual rainbow palettes, they're very few in my collection. For me, this is like an accent palette. And if I want to actually take this with me somewhere, I'd like to have other shades in here rather than just all rainbows, you know, browns, neutrals. That's how I like to wear my colorful shades. Not that I really care about bringing in other things to my collection, but I just feel like this is a more appealing format because it's more flexible. You know, you can pop things out, you can take things out, you can just change the format. I prefer that. For $50 for all these shades, I think it's a fairly good deal, because if you bought them singles, because the singles are $7 US, altogether this would be $112 US, which is quite a lot for 16 eyeshadows. Bitches love bundles, right? In terms of the amount that I paid in Australian dollars, because our Australian dollars is really weak right now, it was just under $100, $98.39. People like to know how much grams there is. For me, I have never ever hit pan on any eyeshadow, and I will never hit pan on any of these kind of colors. So to me, you know, I don't really care. But in case you care, 1.8 grams per pan. These are also all made in the USA, which I think is a big plus. And they are cruelty-free, and they are actually all, except one, vegan. And that is the shade Unbothered, which has carmine in it. This is the shade that is non-vegan. I'm not a vegan, and I don't really care if products are vegan or not, but I feel like it probably would have been a stronger selling point if they were just all vegan. I don't know. Which I'm surprised actually the red hasn't got carmine in it, because it basically looks like those crushed beetles. Okay, now they do say there is a matte finish, and I would agree, but if you look very, 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 very closely, there are actually sparkles in the shades, and I'm guessing that's to help with the blendability. You wouldn't really notice it on the lid, but you can see them in the pan. You might also be wondering, are they the same formula as the existing mattes in their singles, in their original singles? No, they're not. These mattes that they have in the older version is actually smoother to the touch, they're softer to the touch. These ones on the other hand, they feel very dry, very stiff, quite powdery. So they are totally different formulas, and I have looked up the ingredients and they are different. So they're not the same, totally different. I'm gonna give you the pros and cons because I just feel like that's easier. Let's start with the pros because, you know, let's start on a positive note and then talk about the issues I had with these eyeshadows. First of all, they are super pigmented, very, very pigmented. In fact, these are probably the most pigmented, colorful eyeshadows I've ever used in my life. I can always count on Black-owned makeup brands to have really good color payoff. Also, I do have to say I really like the shade selection. I've seen a lot of brands bring out rainbow, you know, colors before, Makeup Geek. I wasn't so attracted to the shades that it released, but I think here it's a really nice gradient. This to me just looks a lot more appealing than a lot of rainbow palettes out there. Just because I think there's a good balance of lighter shades, mid-tone, and deeper. I mean, there are obviously some gaps here, but I do think that it's a really good rainbow palette release. Another pro is that I feel like these work really good as liners. Oftentimes, if I want to get a really nice, bold, colorful liner look, I might have to mix it with Inglot Duraline. For these, I can just stamp it on, pack them on, and they go on really nicely, really strong. This shade looks beautiful as a liner. This other blue shade, the red shade looks gorgeous as a liner. Just stamped on with an angled brush, it looks fantastic. And I have to say, a good angled brush is so underrated. But I like to use the Ray Morris angled brush to stamp these on, and they're really good. Now let's get to the cons. Because they're so dry, they're really stiff and quite difficult to blend out, I noticed. I'll insert a few clips here and there showing you that I really had trouble blending. I'm no longer 20, no longer 18, and I don't have like fresh lids where I can just keep blending. And I don't want to disturb this area because I don't want to speed up the aging process. But basically, it took me probably 2 times or 3 times as long as I normally would to blend out the eyeshadow, and I probably didn't get as good a diffusion as I would like personally. The way that it blended wasn't blended enough for me when I packed it on all over the eyelid and just blended it out. So it does take time. It is a stiff and dry formula. Another issue I had with the blending is that after you pack it on and start blending, oftentimes some of these shades, they actually lift up the eyeshadow, so you have to keep packing on, and then really be careful that when you're blending it doesn't lift, because oftentimes this just would not adhere properly and they look patchy. When I started doing my eyelid swatches, I started with one side with no primer, the other side with a primer, but I kind of soon scrapped that because I realized without a primer they just look terrible. They don't show up as strongly, and also they just looked so patchy. So you definitely need to use a primer with them. I think most people nowadays that I see on YouTube anyway, I don't know, maybe the average normal consumer might not use a primer like my mum, but you know, you do have to use an eyelid primer if you want to use these and make them look better. When I first got these, I actually really liked these. I was playing with them, but I was also using them with things like this, you know, a neutral palette or a earthy tone palette, because this is a warm palette. But I like to use colorful shades with browns. That's just me. And I noticed that when I was using them with these, I had no trouble. And then I tried to use these on their own, and I realized, yes, they do not self-blend. These definitely need help with other eyeshadow formulas to help them get looking more diffused, because on their own, they weren't fantastic to work with. Pairing it with this, like I have today, I've used the yellow shade and then some of the Viseart warm mattes in the crease, and that has really helped blend it out. Because of that, I don't think that they're beginner friendly. I feel like if you're new to colorful eyeshadows and you want to try out colorful eyeshadows, these aren't the ones for you, because they are going to take a lot of work to work with and diffuse and blend out and make look beautiful than say your Viseart Bright editorial mattes. I actually did a comparison of how these work with the Sugar Pill ones and the Viseart ones, because I kind of wanted to know how different they were. And I do find that the Viseart ones and the Sugar Peel ones are a lot easier to use. I don't think that if you're new to colourful eyeshadows is the one for you, because you're going to be sitting there for a while unless you use it with other formulas to help with the blend. Not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone likes a brown in their crease, which fair enough. Just had to put that out there in case, you know, you don't usually wear colourful eyeshadows and you're looking to invest in a colourful eyeshadow palette and I don't think this is the one for you. Another thing I also wanted to mention was that some of these shades do actually apply differently on the eyelid than it does in the pan. For me, I don't wear concealer as a primer, so, you know, obviously they are, you know, gonna look different on the eyelid, but I just want to put that out there. These two shades look actually super similar on the eyelid. I'm not sure why they were both included. I think they are. There's too much of a similarity. I think either one of them could have been swapped out for something else. Yeah, and some of these purples on the eyelid look a lot more pink than they do purple. I definitely feel like the best way to use these are just as either liners or just packing it on and then blending it out with another shade than the same shade that you had on your brush, because otherwise it's going to go patchy and lift off. Obviously some shades were better than others and I will get to that, but that was the general gist that I was feeling and that I experienced. Now, like I said, every shade was different, so I'm going to quickly go over what I felt about each of the shades in case you are interested in any of them specifically. Let's start with the purple row. Cute is like a pastel purple, and now this one was not super pigmented. When I stamped it on as a liner, I had to kind of build it up to make this one show up. It definitely kind of shows up more pink than purple, I found, especially as I started to blend it out. So this one is bossed up. This one is described as a magenta. This one stains the lid, so just be careful with this. If you don't like your lids being stained, this one will stain it. This one also fades out to more of a pink. It's a beautiful shade as a liner, is what I wrote. Next one is Vibez. Now Vibez, sadly, this was the worst performing purple of the bunch. It looks like a really nice shade. It's not great. This one also stains the eyelid as well. And if you want to see how bad it was, skip to the lid swatch part. But basically this was bad. This is Purp Smurf. This is a gorgeous purple. There's some fallout. It really pops as an eyeliner. I love this shade as an eyeliner. I feel like out of all the purples, this one packed the most punch. And it was just the most vibrant. However beautiful this was in the liner, this was quite difficult to actually blend out. So I don't think these purples used packed on the eyelid and blended out, they didn't work the best. So that was very sad. Let's move on to the blues. This is Jet Set, and it is a beautiful shade again as a liner. It looked good on both sides, the side without the primer and the side with the primer as a liner, but I did have difficulty again building this one up. It kept lifting off, so I had to keep packing it on, and then as I blended out, it started losing its intensity and started muting out. This one is Neo Blue. Now this one is better than Jet Set in terms of blending it out, but I did find as well with this one, as I was blending out, it did mute it a little bit. So the next one is Yacht Life. Actually, it's not Yacht Life, it's Yatch Life. I don't know what Yatch is, but it's Yatch Life. So anyway, this one did blend out really nicely. It didn't have the same issues that these two had. This is the last shade in the blue column, and this is Drip Drop. This was gorgeous as a liner. So gorgeous. I feel like if I was having a really lazy day and I just added this, it's gonna look so beautiful and effortless. The only sad thing was that it did have the same blending issues, the same building issues that I had with the other two. This is Party Drip, the pink here. This one needed to be built up, but it is buildable, not the most opaque. It took a long time to blend. And it wasn't really on the eyelid even when I packed it on quite a bit. Not my favorite pink by any means. This yellow that I'm wearing today, Lemon Drop. Love this shade. I feel like this shade had no issues. This was good. This is a good yellow. If you're looking for a good yellow, this is a good yellow. Let's talk about the greens before we get onto this column. This one is Level Up. This one was sadly, again, difficult to diffuse, and I did kind of at one point kind of give up because I didn't want to keep going in with my brush again and again and just, you know, disturb my eyelid and irritate it too much. So it was unfortunate. This is one of those shades that you keep building it up and it lifts off when you keep blending it or trying to blend it out. It just didn't want to, adhere properly. And then lastly, this is Squad, same issues as Leveled Up. Beautiful shade, but when used on its own, trying to blend it out was a nightmare. So yeah, sadly, these aren't really the best greens used all over the eyelid for me. This one also does stain my eyelid as well. Now let's move on to this last column. Crushin was a fine shade. I don't think this was too problematic. This one was easier to blend out. Same with Splash. This is such a gorgeous color. I feel like I want to dye my hair this color at some point. This is like a neon orangey salmon. This is beautiful. I didn't have any problems with this one. This one is a really nice shade, really good shade. There was some slight staining though, but it was really gorgeous. I think this looks really beautiful on its own as well. And this shade is the one that's got carmine in it. This is Unbothered. This shade and this shade, they look so similar on the eyelid, so similar. In fact, when I was using Unbothered, I thought that I had actually put Crushin on because it looked that similar. It's slightly deeper, but on the eyelid, you can't really tell. So I feel like it's kind of a redundant shade in this palette. I didn't have any issues with this either. Now Source. Source was an interesting one because I feel like on one eyelid, it looked terrible, and on the other eyelid, it looked fine. So I'm a little bit on the fence as to why that was. Maybe I had put too much primer on one eyelid, and so it was not adhering properly. It was catching on to some of my eyelids. I do have lots of folds on my eyelids, lots of texture on my eyelids. I do think this is a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. It's beautiful. And I really love these kind of deep matte reds. I just don't feel like enough brands make this shade. So I'm glad to see that Coloured Raine has. Again, this is another shade that stains your eyelids. So let's talk about my favorite shades, the least problematic ones, and then the most problematic shades. My favorites: Splash, gorgeous. Lemon Drop, gorgeous. Yatch Life, surprising, but I actually think this is a really nice blue, especially for a deep blue. Unbothered was also good, not problematic. And then I also kind of added Source because I feel like on the eyelid that worked, this looked fantastic. Now, my least favorite shades and the ones that unfortunately just were not good at all and were problematic: Party Drip, the pink one, not good. Vibez, terrible purple. Jet Set was another one that gave me a lot of issues, which also it's so disappointing because this is such a beautiful like periwinkle blue. Drip Drop, again, disappointing when used packed on the eyelid. I would use this as a liner though. Level Up was another terrible one. So I wouldn't recommend these shades if you want to use them the way I did. So here are my overall thoughts, and this is probably going to sound like really mixed messages, but overall I actually do like these. There is a place in my collection for these that aren't filled by other colourful eyeshadows I have because they're so pigmented. I think they look fantastic as liners. They work really nice with other eyeshadows, but on their own, that's not how I'd use them anyway. So for the way I use eyeshadows, these work really well. There definitely are issues. There is a learning curve to using this, and so because of that, I don't feel like these are appropriate for people just getting into colourful eyeshadows or people not wanting to spend a heap of time on their eyeshadows. But if you love colourful eyeshadows and you're okay at using them the way that they work best, which is packing them on and being really careful with blending it out or using them in conjunction with other eyeshadows, I think you'll like these. Hopefully this has helped. Hopefully this isn't confused anyone any further. But yeah, I don't think this is the perfect eyeshadow formula. And I do wish that they blend it a little bit more easily by itself. Now I'm going to close out this video by saying that the next part of this video is going to be the eye swatch portion. The way I did the eye swatches were with the same brushes. I used the Builder 2 to pack on the eyeshadows. Then I diffused the edges using Work 1. I used the Zoeva Luxe Crease Brush to kind of blend out the edges. It was yeah, this one. And then I also did use another one because this got dirty, but it was basically the same thing. And on the lower lash line, I used my smudger one. So that's the way I did it. And the primer I used was the Urban Decay Primer Potion. So yeah, if you want to see that, then enjoy, because my eyelids didn't enjoy it. And if you're going to stop here, then thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know if you've tried these. Also, let me know what is your favorite colorful eyeshadow formula. And if you want to see more of my face, please subscribe. Otherwise, enjoy the eye swatches.